how to paint a nativity silhouette. Hi friends, we're doing this on an 11-inch by 14-inch canvas, and the first thing that we need to do is add a nice layer of water on the canvas. Sometimes I do this in the beginning when I want to fill up the canvas with a color because the water will help it to spread a little bit better. I'm just using my 3/4 flat brush and I'm applying a nice even layer of water. You don't want it to be dripping wet, you just want it to be a nice even layer of water. Okay, so when you're done with that, we're going to load our brush in phthalo blue. I just loaded the tip of my bristles with the blue, and I'm going to start at the top and go about halfway down. So I'm kind of pointing where the middle part of the canvas is. That's how far down I'm going to go with this phthalo. And notice how the water is helping it to spread, and it's also making it to look thin. So we don't want it to be a really chunky, solid, thick layer. We want it to take the water and have the water let it be pretty thin. I can see a lot of the white still showing through on the canvas. Okay, and feel free to press pause when you need to because the video sped up just a little bit right there. Okay, so when you get to about the halfway mark, we're going to actually load our palette with titanium white. Okay, and this white is going to help create sort of an ombre effect in the sky. I didn't even rinse my brush off. I just loaded it in with the white. And at first, it's going to not look light blue, but the more you add white in there and blend it back up. So right there at the halfway point, I added the white. I blended it back up a little bit by painting over the phthalo blue. And I'm going to continue down all the way down my canvas with the white so that the blue is gradually getting whiter as it goes to the bottom of the canvas. And it doesn't have to be perfect and consistent. You can see some streaks of white in there that are more lighter than other areas, and that's okay. And so this video is speeding up here to show you what is happening. The white goes all the way down, and we create a canvas background with phthalo blue that blends to titanium white in the middle, and it goes back down. And then I like to go all the way back up, back and forth strokes to just kind of even it out a bit. Okay, so we need to let this dry. So take a break, get a hair dryer, dry it if you don't want to take a break. But before we continue, the canvas needs to dry. Here is my dried version, and the next thing we're going to do to this painting is paint the rays that are pretty much taking up the entire sky in this painting. So I'm still going to use my 3/4 flat, but I rinsed it off and kind of dried it off. And we're going to start by painting the rays, but we're going to paint some dark rays first. So I'm going to start with just phthalo blue. So I loaded my brush in phthalo blue. And these rays start in the middle and they radiate down diagonally from that middle point. So we want to kind of create a mental note that that part is where all the rays are going to touch at the end. So there's the middle part. And I'm using the tip of my brush and I'm holding it very, very lightly. I'm not pressing too hard. You can still see through the paint because I'm holding it very, very lightly. And I'm creating the sort of base of these rays. So we have, we kind of paved our way to where those rays are going to be. So those are the dark rays, and they all go to the point in the middle. All right, so actually I'm going to go darker with this. I'm going to go back with more phthalo blue, and this time I'm going to press a little bit harder so that they're a little darker. And again, I'm going to paint these rays so that they all touch that middle point up in the sky. Again, I'm using my brush, the tip of my brush, so I'm holding the brush vertically and just using the tip, so I'm not pressing down on all the bristles. And so I'm going to actually add just a tiny bit of water in there because my blue got very dry right there. And I'm not really doing a dry brush style. And right there, you can see what happens when you add the little bit of water. It makes it super dark. So you don't want to go like super, super dark, but we still kind of want to see through. So So it's kind of an equal balance of dark and light here. Okay, so there's my base of the rays. It's dark, and we're going to go lighter next. So I'm just kind of brushing it over gently. And notice how I do go all the way down, but there's a little bit of a gap on the bottom because I know that that part is going to be covered by mountains. So I don't really have to, you can go all the way down with it, but you don't really have to worry about going all the way down. And so these upper right and upper left corners, I'm actually putting another layer of phthalo blue up there because that's a really dark area of this painting. It's furthest away from the star and it's highest in the sky, so it is very dark in that area. Okay, so next we're going to start getting lighter. So we're doing dark to light, so dark first and then light. And so I wiped off my brush. I didn't have to rinse it off. I just wiped it off and I loaded it with that white. So I'm kind of double loaded right now. I have phthalo blue on my brush. I wiped the blue off, but there's still blue on my brush. And I loaded it in the white. And so I'm going to do these rays again, and blue and white mixed together make light blue. And I'm going to use the tip of my brush. I'm going to start out very gently. I don't want to press too hard. I want to just kind of see what happens with that blue and white. And just the tip of the brush, just making these rays very thin. I'm going to go all the way down. I'm kind of going the same path, but there's a few of those white rays that are going in between the dark rays. So you don't really have to worry about going over the same ones. You can kind of make your new a new ray between the dark rays, if that makes sense. Okay, so we have this white that's mixing with the blue. We're getting this varied amount of color of blue and white and light blue, and you can already see what's sort of happening here. We have some brighter white streaks in there that are creating the effect of the rays. Okay, so we have that layer, and next, now you don't have to do this step if it's a little tricky, but I envisioned having a little bit of pink in the sky. And so that's why I have medium magenta is what I loaded. I didn't rinse my brush. There's blue and white still on my brush. I loaded it in the medium magenta. I'm going to be very gentle with this magenta because it could take over. It's kind of a strong color. And I'm just very, very lightly adding that magenta in there, and mostly towards the bottom. I didn't really do magenta towards the top. And actually, if you press too hard, you can see how bold that pink is right there. That streak I did right there, it's very bold and pink. Okay, and I can show you how to fix that in just a second if it got too dark. Okay, so just a few streaks of the medium magenta. Wipe off your brush and then load it with the white again. And I'm just going to go back and kind of, that's a little bit too bold. So you can see what happens when you do the streak and it's too bold. You just wipe it off real quick to get a lighter amount. You change the pressure of your brush. You hold it lighter instead of darker. Okay, and then so I'm just blending this. You want to try not to blend too much because your colors may all kind of start looking the same. And this is important right here. So the closer we get to this star, the brighter it's going to be. And I want to get some streaks of white that are very bright up here. Obviously, we haven't painted the star yet, but this is the beam of light that's like right close to the star, so it's nice and bright. And I'm not going all the way down with this pure white. I'm going like a quarter of the way down, and I'm just streaking it down, blending it in with the rest. But I want to make sure that this area right here at the top is nice and bright. So I wiped off some of the blue off of my brush, and I'm going to go back over it again. I'm going to make sure that it's nice and bright and white. We don't want like a super pure white, but it's still blended. It's more like a very light blue because it blends with the blue, but it is the brightest part. And I'm just kind of going back over that again. Maybe I'll streak a few that are coming down further, but for the most part, the brightest part is going to be right in that area. Okay, and because I'm going back over my strokes, that's just how I blend. I'm not reloading my brush and more paint. I'm just continuing to kind of drag the paint along to kind of add some lighter rays that are going all the way down, but again, the brightest part is at the top. And then I'm going to just do a few more touch-ups here, blend this bottom in, add just a little bit more white here on the bottom. Very light. And then a little bit more light over here at the top. Okay, so at some point you need to declare that your sky is finished and move on to the next step, which is going to be painting the stars. So I'm using a 10-0 round brush or a 10-0 liner, and I am just going to manually paint these stars. If you want to do the toothbrush thing where you flick the stars, you can do that. I just kind of wanted more control over where my stars are going to be. And so when I paint stars, I make sure that they're nice, have a variety of brightness by pressing hard, kind of bigger circles, smaller circles. Notice how they get clustered together. You could even paint little constellations if you want to do that, but it's kind of how the stars look in the night sky. Okay, so when you're done with the star part of it, we're actually going to paint the Star of Bethlehem. So this is the star that's causing all those bright beaming lights, and I'm using the 10-0 liner and titanium white, and I'm just going to paint a sort of diamond shape up here at the top. Okay, and then I'm going to grab just a little bit of yellow. So there's now primary yellow on my plate, and I'm just dabbing the yellow with the white. So I'm painting over that little diamond shape that I made. And then I'm going to do some more points that are coming out of kind of forming an X on the star. Okay, and then we could even go further with this and paint a few lines that are kind of coming out from that star. Okay, and then maybe there's a few lines that are coming out on the X part of the star. Okay, and then if you mess up, and I did mess up on this star here, but I'll show you what you can do, because this is kind of a tedious little part, because you have to use a tiny brush and you have to paint this diamond star, and it's kind of hard because you could mess up the little beams that are coming out from the star. But you could actually get a baby wipe. This is a wet wipe, and it acts like an eraser for your acrylic painting. So as long as the paint underneath it is dry, it'll wipe off the wet part. So that line that I painted was too thick, so you can just wipe it off and redo it. So that's what baby wipes are really good for in these acrylic paintings. Okay, next, this is actually a really fun step. Well, I found it fun, but we're going to do the mountains, and these mountains start out very light in the back and they get darker as they go forwards. So this is neutral gray, value 5, mixed with titanium white. You can see on my palette, just kind of grabbed both colors and sort of blended them. And I'm going to paint a wiggly line, and then I'm going to paint it solid. So I'm about a third of the way up the canvas. Okay. And then I'm using the 3/4 flat, so it's about 3/4 down, because I'm using the whole width of the brush here to kind of paint that in. And it's okay if this area is a bit translucent because it's far away and it's faded in the distance. Okay, and then I'm gonna just kind of paint this in a little bit more solid here, but know that this next layer is going to go over it. So this is just neutral gray. So you can just wipe off your brush. You don't have to rinse it off, but just load it in just the neutral gray and paint the next level of mountains. So my wiggly line that I painted, it's kind of a different pattern. It's not the same because we're doing mountains that are different ranges and heights in the distance, and then again paint it solid. Okay, so that's our second layer. And then our third layer of mountain is going to be a gray mixed with a black. So a little bit of black and neutral gray, not a lot of black, because too much black is going to make it look black, but we want it to look dark gray. So our third layer I'm going to do a different kind of line. Again, it's a different mountain range. And I know this video, it got a little bit fast right here, but it's kind of the same thing, just a different kind of wiggly line, and then paint it solid underneath. Okay, and then we are almost all the way down the canvas because the final layer is going to be solid black. Okay, so I didn't even rinse my brush off. I just grabbed solid black because Mars Black is a very strong color. You don't even have to rinse your brush off and it'll look black. So this bottom layer is pretty flat because we want our silhouette to be right there on the bottom, especially the part in the middle. We want to try to make that. You can make it lumpy, but it's got to be flat compared to the rest of the mountains. Okay, and then you can make it go up a little bit on the left and the right. So there is our mountain ranges. We have 4 layers of mountains in this painting, and next we need to wait for this painting to dry. Here's my dried version, and I'm going to talk a little bit about my traceables. So I created a silhouette and an outline of the silhouette if you want to save some printer ink, and also the outline just kind of helps because we're drawing the outline and painting it in. So whatever you prefer, you can choose to print out which one, and then you're going to need to place a sheet of graphite paper below and line the silhouette up so that it's on the bottom. Mine is actually slightly over the edge, but you want to kind of take a peek at where your bottom black line is, the black land area, to make sure that when you trace it, the bottom of the silhouette is going to match up with the black land, and it's not going to look like Mary, Joseph, and Jesus are floating in the air. So make sure that it's lined up correctly. And then I always recommend a pencil for tracing these, but I found with this one that you really need to use a ballpoint pen because these lines are so precise that a pencil might make the line too thick. So the ballpoint pen will allow you to transfer it more precisely, especially in the figures. Mary, Jesus, and Joseph have a very precise kind of a silhouette in the face of Mary and Joseph, and you really want to draw it correctly so that the silhouette looks good when you paint it in. So take your time. There's a lot of tracing to be done here, and just draw over all the lines that you see, and then you can lift your paper up. You can also you can take a peek at it, but you can also tape it down if you feel like it's going to take a long time and you're worried about it moving. But you could always tape your graphite paper down to the canvas and tape your traceable to the graphite paper so nothing moves. And that way you can really kind of focus on getting everything drawn out. So my video kind of jumped here, and I am at the point where everything is traced, and it should be very visible, especially if you press nice and firm with that ballpoint pen. You can kind of see it on the camera, but I can see it well from where I'm sitting. And the next step is to paint our silhouette in, and I'm using Mars Black with the 4 round brush, and I'm just going to paint inside of my lines. Okay, so I started with the house because I know that the structure would be easy to do. I didn't want to do the hard part first. I wanted to do the easy part first. Okay, so with this black, the thing with this black is sometimes it's too thick. And if that's the case, you can add a little bit of water to your brush and kind of swirl it around into the black, and that'll get the flow to go. Sometimes if you're using craft paint, you usually don't have that problem with the black, but this is the Liquitex Basics paint, and it's pretty thick when it comes out. Okay, so you really want to take your time here, really fill in those lines. The silhouette looks best when everything is nice and sharp and filled in evenly. So take your time here. It's not hard. It's a bit tedious because there's a lot of little areas to fill in, but you have the lines already drawn out for you, so you know what you're doing. And this part takes a little bit of time. So I'm actually going to speed up my video just slightly. And I'm going to go silent here as I fill in. And then if I have any other pointers to give you about the silhouette painting, I will tell you about those pointers. Okay? Okay, for the Mary, Joseph, and Jesus area of this silhouette, I recommend having the 10-0 liner, that really small brush handy because of these smaller areas. And what I did was I outlined the outer part first so I can really get the shape laid out and then fill the rest in. For the profile of Mary's face, definitely use that 10-0 liner to get that in. I know the nose and chin gets kind of tricky, but do your best to kind of really get that painted in the way that you transferred it on the canvas. Okay, and so her hand is touching the manger and where baby Jesus is laying, and so you want to just outline that and pretty much just outline everything and then go back and fill it in. So I'm actually holding both. I'm holding the 4-round brush in my left hand and the 10-0 in my right hand. So I'm switching back and forth between, okay, this is an area where I really want to get detailed, so I'm using that really tiny brush. But then if there's a larger area where I just need to fill it in, then I'm switching to the 4-round, if that makes sense. Okay, so the same thing with Joseph. Just use that 10-0 liner to really get in there, get all those details laid out, and then fill it in solid. Okay, and I'm going to go silent again. If I have some other tip to tell you, I will let you know. The next step is to paint these palm trees. So this was not on the traceable. We're gonna do these palm trees. Use the 4-round brush and the Mars Black, and you want to start with your base of the palm tree, and it's kind of thick, so you want to press kind of hard with your brush. But then as you go up to the top, I guess the top pretty much lines up with the point of the structure, the end. That's how high it is, and so the the top goes thinner. And then we have our palm leaves, and I'm going to use the very tip of my round brush, holding my brush very lightly to get that nice thin line. And I'm going to paint, let's see, 3, 4, one going up this way, one going down, 5, 6 lines. And then to do the leaflets of the palms, I'm going to start from the middle, and I'm going to drag each stroke outwards, again using the very tip of the round brush, and just kind of press sort of hard at first, then let go of it so that kind of wisps away to create the palm branch. And that is how I'm doing the palm tree branches for this painting. There's different ways you can do this, but I'm doing it with the round brush this time. And I'm just going to repeat that for all of those middle lines that I drew to finish up this particular palm tree. Okay, so I know the video is going a little bit fast. I'm not doing this fast in real life. It's a little bit slower than what the video is showing. Okay, and then I'm doing it on this branch down here. And then we're going to paint another palm tree in this painting. I'm actually going to add a few grass lines on the bottom right there. Okay, we're going to do another palm tree in this painting, and this palm tree is over on the right. It's basically a mirror image of the first palm tree. So this one is going to go the same height as the structure. And again, the base is thick. It gets thinner as you go up. And then you'll do the middle line of all the palms. Okay. And then you do the little palm leaflet, little palms that are sticking out. And so this one I did 5 palm branches, and the other one I did 6. So it's not exactly a mirror of the other palm. And then you can paint more palm trees too if you wanted to do some smaller ones in the distance. Maybe you can do it with a gray color to look like it's kind of far away. But I just stuck with the 2 palm trees, one on the left and one on the right. And maybe I'll do another one, so I'll make it equal. So 6 branches. Okay, and then a few grass lines on the bottom that are kind of sticking up. Okay, and then maybe there's, okay, so this part right here did the little halo around baby Jesus. I'm using a 10-0 liner with titanium white. The white is watered down just slightly because you want it to look translucent. And then I'll show you a close-up here in just a second. But I'm painting a white circle around, and you can see how translucent it is. And even if I go over the silhouette a little bit, over his head a little bit, it's still pretty much see-through, but it's bright, but we see through it. So it's a watered down white. That's how you get it to look see-through, by watering it down. There are some highlight lines on my silhouette. You don't have to do this, but I did this to create the effect of baby Jesus is emitting this light, and it's reflecting off of Mary and Joseph. So I did lines that are on the so just on the part that's facing the infant. That's where I did the lines. Not everywhere, just a few strokes of white lines with the 10-0 liner. Okay, and then maybe some on the inside of the house. So on the diagonal beams right here, maybe on the bottom part. Okay. And then, oh, maybe that one's a little bright, so I can go back and fix it by adding more black. Okay. And then I wanted to do the face, but I didn't want to mess up Mary's face. So I almost did some highlight on her profile, but I did not. I stopped myself right there. Okay. And then there might be a few highlight lines on the tree, so I could do like a few strokes in there. I don't want it to take over because too much white will make it look too busy, and we want the brightest part of the painting is the Star of Bethlehem. But there are a few strokes of highlight around baby Jesus because he's got the halo over his head. Okay. This painting tutorial has come to its conclusion. I hope that you enjoyed painting a nativity silhouette with me. Thanks for watching.